So when I was finished, we finished it. I don't remember how it went. And he finished.
Mhm.
He got a job in Ohio at Kent State University, and we moved up there. And your father remembers all that pretty well. He had a whole childhood, in these places.
You had finished your master's by the time you moved
I
to
finished
Ohio?
my master's, yeah. Yeah, I had a master's degree. And he got a job at Kent State. I got a job at Arizona State University. No, Akron University, which was in driving distance of Kent. And I was in the counseling department, the psychological counseling department in Akron. And they went to school.
Is that the big house that you guys
And
always
we
talk
had the
about?
big house there, yeah. Yeah.
3 stories.
Big house
Plus
down in town. And working in Akron was really my first professional job. And I decided after a very short time what I needed was a wife to take care of all that stuff that I was still taking care of anyway. I needed a wife. And then came, what was the year of Kent State?
Oh, yeah. The shooting.
The shooting.
Yeah, the shooting at Kent State, the National Guard.
70, 71.
Yeah. And then came that year.
What were you doing when
And
that
I
happened?
went outside during that. We were in a big house in the older part of, of the town. And it was within walking distance of the campus.
It
And
was
we
half
went-
a block. from
Half a
town.
block, as a matter of fact. So we went down to the end of that block. I was there.
Salud.
You kids weren't there. And was Arnie there? And what happened was, we were listening to we just went down there to see what was happening. And we were listening to them, the students all doing their student thing. And the National Guard comes behind us. They have on gas masks and they have their bayonets. Bayonets! Bayonets! And they started coming towards us. Well, we started running. That's why I don't remember that your father was there, because I'm not a fast runner. And every guy and girl practically passed me. As big as I am, and, I don't have very long legs. Fortunately, I only had half a block to run and go home and run in the house.
You got a good route.
And that's what I did. But they came after us with bayonets.
Did they go all the way down the block?
There was tear gas. And when I came in the house, we had a little screen porch like this. And I went out on there and I was gassed. Not heavy, but I was gassed. There was tear gas. They didn't throw it on our block. I think it wafted in from down the street.
How far did they go into the block when they started charging?
I don't know, Justin. I was running. They were behind me. I didn't stop to look. I really didn't.
Were they running behind you?
Yes.
Tear gas hurts.
I think they were walking behind us.
Tear gas hurts hard.
I think they
Senti
were.
knows.
Yeah, and we all.
What?
Tear gas hurts.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
we had.
Yeah,
like, they
it hurt.
took apart the tear gas bomb, and we were all in a room, and then they took it apart. So it was only a small part of the tear gas bomb. It wasn't even the entire thing. And we all had to take our masks off and everything and stand there for a minute or so, and it hurt. And
Yeah.
it was just a small piece.
Well, this was already dissipated,
Yeah.
from down the street, I think.
Oh, it was.
So,
shut
through the air, but it hurt. And my eyes burned a lot. Yeah. So that was a very big experience that we lived through. And then when I went to work in Akron, they wouldn't let me come home. There were tanks that wouldn't let me go home. wouldn't let me come down the road to come back to Kent. So that was pretty bad.
Yeah.
I remember I stayed over. There was one couple, one man that worked with me said, you can stay with us. So I did, with him and his family, with his family.
Grandpa had the kids at the time?
He was in Kent also, so I knew they were okay. They,
Did you get a hold of them, or did you not? You didn't.
No digital phones, honey.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Like, what were you thinking at that time? Like, you couldn't get home. There were
I couldn't
tanks.
get hold of
Couldn't
them.
get a hold of your family.
I was desperate.
Yeah.
I was desperate. Yes, I couldn't get there.
No.
Yeah, they wouldn't let me back. Yeah,
How long? Until the next day?
I think it was one day or maybe two. I'm not sure. Who remembers? Do you remember?
I remember being chased out of the school that I was in because the National Guard wanted some place to stay, and they sent me home.
What?
Which was, the school was 6 blocks from the campus, and they said, you'll be safer going home. So I went to my house, which is half a block from the campus, and had the soldiers charging down the street. So we just stayed home.
Yeah.
And I know after the tear gas, you said put wet rags on the windows
Yeah.
sill so none of that tear gas would come in. So that's what we did.
Yeah.
And we heard the helicopters above.
Yes, it was. The world has not always been good. And it can happen here. It can happen at any time.
Mm-hmm.
The prosperity that you were raised in has not always been here. When I grew up, and my sister brought home a newspaper that cost 2 cents, 2 pennies, and we already had one, my mother made her take it back and get the 2 cents back because we couldn't afford it. The world has not always been prosperous, and what we have here now that we take for granted is something we had to fight for,
Right.
and was something we had to work for every day. So don't take it for granted, please, that you'll always have what you have now, that parents will always be around to take care of you because you're going to get older, just like I did, just like your father is, and you have to take care of yourselves. Nobody else is going to do it for you. They'll be gone, and you'll have to take care of yourself. So that's what happened to me. That will happen to my kids. They're fortunate their parents lived such a long time, but they've been taking care of themselves for a long time. But my parents didn't live this old. Most people don't have parents living this old, let alone both parents living this old. So you never know. You never know. You just have to learn how to take care of yourself and just do it yourself. Nobody's going to do it for you. Okay. We're
So we're at Kent
moving
Street.
to Kent. We're moving in Kent. We lived in Kent. I worked there. We worked there. How long were we in Kent? 2
3
years.
3 years.
3 years. And then there was something about tenure, whatever, writing articles. Well, anyway, Arnie got a job at then Wayne State in Montreal.
Yeah.
In Michigan.
I get mixed up with all these places I live. In Wayne State, Michigan. And that's where we went, and I lived in Michigan for 39 years. So that was a long time, the longest place I ever lived. And he worked at Wayne State. What did I do? I know I worked. I got a job. Oh,
You didn't.
I
what about
decided
your,
to go for my Ph.D.
Yes, that's what I was waiting
Let's
for.
not forget that.
That's a big thing.
I decided to do that because I could go to Wayne State because he was working there and get tuition. I found this out afterwards, after I decided. I could get a tuition scholarship. I paid for 1 term. I applied for my Ph.D. I got it. I got in. into rehab counseling, which department he was in, I believe. Yeah, that was his department. And that was, we paid for that tuition was, I don't know if that was $1,000, but that's what we paid. And then after that, they told me you can apply for a tuition scholarship, which I did. And I never had to pay tuition again. So, how much, you're counting up how much I paid for all this schooling? Not very much.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I reached $5,000.
Right.
I think you're minus a few dollars with that $2,000 stipend.
Yeah, with the stipend,
Yeah.
I think you made a little profit.
I made money.
I
Yeah.
think you're up $800 or something
Yeah.
like that.
So, I went for my Ph.D. Let me think about that. That was a big deal. That was a very big deal because you take classes and you're really not accepted as a candidate. You're a candidate for as a candidate for a PhD until about after one term or more, until the committee decides that you are, and you got to go jump through all these hoops, and I got accepted as a PhD candidate, and that was a big deal. And one of the things I did during that time, I took a lot of classes. I had it, in order to, either I could get a PhD or an EDD. I only got an EDD. The whole big difference was I had to take French, another language again. I had to know enough French to translate these articles. I didn't have to speak it. I had to just know, which is what I could do better than I could speak it, ever.
Mm-hmm.
I did better. That's why with the Hebrew, I did better on taking a test because I could
Look
read
at it?
or
Yeah.
write it. I didn't have to speak it. So with the French, you had to get a 70 or better. So I got like a 74. And people were asking, wishing they could get my 4 points. Because they flunked. Not a whole lot of people passed. So I passed that so I could get my PhD. And
Is there a distinguishing difference between the different degrees, or is it just the language that?
that was it.
Really?
That was it. Otherwise, with the same courses, it was the same everything. And another thing that I did then, I had a teaching, I didn't get paid for it, but I taught at the University of London in Canada. And we would take the train, not only me, there were at least 3 of us that were students, with our advisor, whose name was George Leonard. He was my advisor. And we would take the train up to London every week, once a week. That was fun, you know. We were on the train together. Sometimes we'd have to study, or we'd have to work on classwork. You know, when you're a teacher, you got to do class plans, so lesson plans. And that's where I did my PhD study, was in those classes. They were my study, but they were my population that I did the research on. And in those days, analyzing the data was, you either paid somebody to do it. It wasn't, you just didn't put it on the computer. Or there were computers, but it was hard. And I did it that way. I did it with the computers. I didn't have the money to pay for it.
So was this before you bought Dad the computer?
Yeah.
Okay.
She didn't buy me the computer. She bought a
I
computer.
bought a computer.
I bought a computer.
She paid me to program it,
Yeah.
and you can talk about that.
Yeah. So, yeah, because I bought that after when I was working.
Okay.
When I had my
Okay.
doctorate.
So this is still like early 1970s?
Yes.
Yeah, I got my
Okay.
Early mid.
1970,
75, you got your doctorate.
75. Yeah.
Hold up.
When were you born?